Okay, here we go again. Right, I assume we're down to two, so hello both of you. Can't imagine anybody else watching this rubbish. Anyway, where was I for last week? Yeah, I was talking about that mill then at the bottom of our road, which is now has been totally demolished and is now a car showroom. I can recall when I was a youngster, now education coming here again, I don't know whether everybody knows this, but eels, freshwater eels in the river, every now and again, no, they only do it once, actually leave the river to spawn. They don't actually spawn in the river itself. Some of the eels are up to 40 years old and they swim down the river, out into the sea, right down through the Atlantic, right the way down to the, not Mediterranean, where we've got all the problems at the moment. Gone. Not Mediterranean. Anyway, you know where I mean, down around Mexico way, down by the Sargasso Sea. And there they spawn. And once the eels have spawned, then they die. And of course, all the eggs hatch out in the seaweed that's down in the Sargasso Sea. And then all the little elvers all start to swim north again. And they come up on the Gulf Stream. And some people say it takes a couple of years to do it. I've no idea. Anyway, we were under the mill this particular day, and it must be on a particular week in the year, I would assume. I don't know whether it's water temperature or what, but we were under this mill, and we saw these elvers, and there were literally thousands of them, and they couldn't swim up the mill stream because it was too strong, and they were going up on the moss on the sides of the building, and there were thousands. You could pick them up by a handful, and I only ever saw it once. But wow, what a thing to see. And again, going back, talking memories, it all comes back to me. But also down in that area, literally behind where the mill used to be, was a Eastleigh swimming pool. It was an outdoor pool. And they used to fill up the pool from the River Itchen. This is before they had obviously proper water mains down there. And I can recall, again, I must have been about 7, 8 years old, of going into the swimming pool and actually having fish in the swimming pool with us as we were swimming. I only ever saw it the once, but after a while they stopped doing that because, again, as youngsters, we used to swim in the river as well. And if they wanted to fill up the swimming pool from the river itself, and we were swimming further upstream, then we were disturbing all the sediment, and they couldn't put water in the pool because it would end up with all mud. So we got told off 2 or 3 times. So I say after a while they connected up the mains and everything was done from the mains. But next to the swimming pool was Eastleigh Boys Club, and I assume it's still there. I think it was rebuilt while we were living down in Eastleigh and just after we left. But when I was there, because you couldn't join until you were 14, the Boys Club, after you were too young. After I joined, I was playing football for the third team, right wing, absolutely useless. I got a game every week anyway. But I distinctly recall we were playing Eastleigh Rangers, and the pitch was in Fleming Park, and it was a bit cut up and muddy. And the ball in those days, again, the older ones will remember, wasn't the namby-pamby balls you get today. These were balls, and when they got wet, it was like humping a medicine ball around. Anyway, we were playing Eastleigh Rangers, and somebody heaved this ball through the air, and one of the Eastleigh Rangers defenders headed the ball, and what we didn't know was he had a false eye. And when he headed the ball, his eye popped out. So the referee stopped the game, and everybody was groping around in the mud to find this fella's eye. Anyway, we found it, and he wiped it off in his shirt, got it reasonably clean, popped it back in his socket. Referee said, right, off you go, and we carried on playing. Never forget that. Sort of thing you don't get nowadays, isn't it? Probably something to do with health and safety. Yeah. Anyway, also with the boys' club, I'd say it's been rebuilt now. In those days, it was all wooden, and they had a rat problem. And it was the days of Hancock's half hour in black and white. And we used to turn out all the lights, go into the television room, sit on the table, because they had chairs and table in there. And we'd always just sit on the table, turn the lights out, watch the television, and somebody would throw crisps on the floor. And after a while, you see this shape come across the floor to pick up the crisps as the rats were coming in. It was amazing, absolutely amazing. Of course, if health and safety, they'd go bananas, wouldn't they? Well, they didn't eat bananas, they're crisps. But yeah, that's how it was in those days. It was absolutely amazing. But talking about that sort of time, now I don't know if anybody from Eastleigh is watching this, but by the wreck up Lee Road, the recreation ground, everybody called it the wreck, used to be air raid shelters. And I know for a fact that they're still there, but they're under the grass. They sealed them and just left them. And there's another lot in Derby Road, I think, up in the big park that's up there. And again, I think they did exactly the same there. And I can recall being a lad, dared once to go down into one end of the air raid shelter and come up the other. And it was about 50, 60 yards long, I suppose. Frightened the life out of me, pitch black inside. Anyway, we did it, but I only did it once. But again, it's still there, all part of history of Eastleigh. I was listening to a radio the other day, which is going slightly off the thing, and I was thinking, I heard these people talking, and they were talking about Britain's stiff upper lip and ramrodded straight backs, and they were saying, well, that sort of thing isn't needed nowadays, and perhaps they were wrong doing that, because nowadays it's all counselling, isn't it? And I thought to myself, well, it's because our parents, my parents, and your parents as well, if you're my age, your parents and grandparents, they went through 2 world wars. And when they went through the 2 world wars, they did it to preserve our freedoms. And a chunter coming now. What gets me is now, we are in Britain losing our freedom of speech. We can't criticise anything anymore. You probably noticed. If you speak about anybody who's homosexual, you're homophobic. If you speak about anybody that's a Muslim, you're Islamophobic. You're not allowed to express an opinion. Even though there's no hatred in it, I've got nothing against these people, entirely up to themselves. If that's the line they want to take, great, take it. But we should not lose our freedom of speech. It really gets to me now. Again, I listen to the radio a lot because, of course, I can't watch the television because I can't see it. I listen to the radio a lot. And you hear these people coming on and they're going on about transgender rubbish. And they're on about the children. Their children should be able to do this and do that. No, leave the children alone. Let the children grow up normally. They don't need to be pushed into the roads that you've decided to take. The transgender, homosexual, TG, whatever it is. That's by the by. If the children end up that way when they're adults, great. That's up to them. But don't push them and the rest of us down the road that you're going on. It's wrong. It is wrong. And I will state that it is wrong. You want to go there? Great. But don't try to pull everybody else down there. It's like force feeding us with the problems that you've got. And as far as I'm concerned, it is problems with you've got. Now, I'll probably get a load of hassle off of this. Well, it's tough. I believe in free speech. There's no hatred in it. It's just actually having an opinion and being able to voice it. Unfortunately, as I say, there'll be a lot of people say, oh, you can't say that, you can't say it. Well, we can say it, and we should be able to say it. This is why so many people died in the First and Second World War, to preserve our freedom of speech. And it's a silent majority, which I am one of, and I'm prepared to stand up now. The silent majority have got to stand up against this and say, no, you're wrong. And what's wrong is wrong. They have an opinion, the people who have all these other, what I call problems. They tell us we're wrong. Well, we're not. We're normal. We're heterosexual people. We're Christian, basically. You think of the Britain, think of Britain. Britain's fabric and society has been brought up on Christian principles. Always has been. And if we, as a society, want to turn our back on that, then we'll have to suffer the consequences, which I think we can see now with all the other problems that are coming into the country, which I've just mentioned. If we turn our back on our Christian principles, then we are in trouble. That's my chunter for today. And I'll just leave it at that, okay? I have no apologies, absolutely none whatsoever. Again, as I say, I believe in free speech. There's no hatred, there's no malice, just saying what I think and what I believe to be the truth, okay? Well, hopefully I'll probably be talking to myself next week, but we'll find out, won't we? Okay, right, bye all, bye.